Neighbors. The people that live closest to you without actually being inside your home. Some are wonderful. They respect your space, clean up after their dogs, keep an eye on your place when you go out of town. The kind of people you don't mind stopping to say hi to. Others can be, well, frankly, a nightmare. They're loud, intrusive, probably crazy. They let their grass grow for weeks, the kind of people you try to avoid. But what about the people that you never really talk to? The people you never see? Are they building a bomb in their basement? Do they have a torture chamber? Are they secretly vampires? Are they part of the Illuminati? Are they vampires that are in the Illuminati? Why don't they want to be my friend?
So yeah, on this episode, we're going to be talking about
the neighbors.
Welcome to Nightmare Town.
Welcome back to Nightmare Town. We are Betty Boom.
And I'm Mandemonium.
And this week we are going to be talking about the neighbors. The neighbors. We all have them. Well,
most of us have them.
I mean, even in Australia, where they're like miles apart, they still refer to the closest person to them as their neighbor.
Yeah,
So,
good point.
In the olden days, that's also how they would do it.
We all have them though. We like some of them not so much.
We hate the other ones.
And then some of them might be vampires in the Illuminati, but we wouldn't know because they never leave their home.
And some neighbors you wind up starting a podcast with.
Yep.
And here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And it's going pretty well so far.
Yeah, a year later. We own our background music.
Yeah. Going places.
Doing things. Not really. We're both kind of homebodies.
Yeah, more or less. I hid from a knock on my door today, if that tells you anything.
Oh no, I want you to hold on to that story for one of the ones you get to tell. So this week, I am starting it off. But before we jump into the story, there was a couple of things that was going on the last episode that was coming up. Like, Amanda had minor surgery.
Oh yeah, super fun. It was oral surgery, but they cut my wisdom teeth out. I was asleep for it. The recovery went alright, but I'm really, really tired of mashed potatoes and soup in the middle of summer, let me tell ya.
Oh no. Oh.
Ate that for a week. I'm kind of over it.
I had nationals for Skills USA. I went and did that. I did not place at all. And I didn't even get in the top 10. I was 6 points away from being in the top 10.
But you had a good time trying.
I did. I actually got the 11th place. So in restaurant services, I am the 11th best in the nation.
Hey, that's something.
Which is pretty fucking sweet since I haven't waited a table in 6 years and I learned most of the stuff that I had to do the night before off of YouTube.
I've learned so many things from it. I fixed my air conditioner the other day because of YouTube. My AC in my car.
Very nice.
Managed to fix it because of YouTube.
Way to go, YouTube.
Shout out to YouTube.
What up?
Hashtag not spots.
Hashtag maybe one day. Hashtag speaking of YouTube, guess what? We're starting a YouTube channel for the podcast.
So yeah, for those of you that would prefer to listen via YouTube, we'll be putting the podcast up on there. So
and yeah, so that's pretty much all big news, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
But segue. Those are hard.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna read my story.
Do it.
So, this week I found my story at chillingtalesfordarknights.com. It was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure it's creepypasta, at least I hope it is. But if it's not, then I would like to say, what the fuck?
Now I'm interested.
Oh, you should be. Alright, so this story is called My Neighbor Has an Unsettling Hobby by The Dead Canary. I know most of you have heard plenty of stories of possessed evil dolls or cursed toys that have caused who knows how much damage to their owners. But let me tell you, sometimes it's the most mundane things that can really freak you out. Unfortunately, I was too ignorant to help the one person who really needed my help at the time. but I hope it isn't too late to warn others, especially since it might be too late for me. There's a guy who lived next door to me. He wasn't at the end of the street or in some old drafty house. It was just a regular old colonial, but the guy was obsessed with Legos. I don't know if he was ever featured on the news or not, but he always had something new set up in his front yard. In February, he built a big heart with a life-size Lego man proposing to a Lego woman, which was actually pretty neat. In July, he reenacted that famous photo from the Iwo Jima flag raising. It was a little silly, maybe, with the yellow Lego heads on the army men, but again, it was certainly nothing to sneeze at. But Halloween was when he went all out. Lego wolfmen, Lego vampires, Lego webs. He even had all of those torture devices things he put up, like the rack and Iron Maiden, thumb screws, even things that wouldn't have looked out of place in a Saw movie. Thing is, not only did he build stuff really well, but most of it worked. The proposing Lego man's arm actually could move up and down. The Iwo Jima flag was bendy and could wave if pulled. And all those Halloween things? Yep, the Iron Maiden could close, and all those little traps could actually twist and turn. Not that anyone could hurt themselves. All the spikes in the Iron Maiden were missing, and thumb screws didn't actually drop. But I didn't even know that level of detail was possible. As far as the guy himself, he wasn't exactly what you expect from a 30-something guy who collected Legos. He was tall, fairly athletic, clean-shaven, no glasses. Even smelled like he showered regularly, but I guess collectors come in all shapes and sizes. He was always friendly with the neighborhood kids, and he even let them play with the stuff on his lawn, as long as they didn't steal anything. Not that anyone really could, as on closer look, the Legos were all glued together. I assumed super glue, but whatever it was strong. I know one kid almost broke a nail trying to get one off. It really made the neighborhood special in a lot of ways, not the least of which because at Christmas, he would send a few lucky kids in the neighborhood their own special toys. My own kids had been looking forward to getting their toys for a long time, but it hadn't happened yet. But then there was Chris. Chris was a teenager in the neighborhood who had a long history of discipline problems. He came from a broken home and was having issues in the foster system. He lashed out a lot in school. I knew him because I taught there, and he was in my math class. When I saw him struggling with his lessons, I offered to tutor him after school in the campus library, and he seemed to respond to it, and to me. Still, I was sure that even if he trusted me more than most people, there was a lot he wouldn't tell me. I was pretty sure he stole little things like candy bars and other small criminal acts. Nothing I could prove, and quite frankly, I liked him. And the least I knew about what he did when he wasn't in school, the better. It was a week or two after Halloween, just after dinner, when I got a knock on the door. It was Chris. He had something under his coat. Oh no, here it was. He asked me to sit outside with him for a minute. I got my coat and he sat down with me on the bench in my front garden. Teach, there's something weird going on and I don't know who else to tell. I can't go to the cops because I didn't exactly find out about it legally. He reached into his coat and pulled out a hammer. To look at it, it was like any other claw hammer you would see in the store, except it was entirely made out of Legos, top to bottom. The claw was even put together with pointy pieces I hadn't seen in a set in a long time. I've never seen a children's toy look so intimidating. It shouldn't have been, with all the yellow, blue, and red bricks making it up, but it had been glued together with a very strong glue, and I'm pretty sure you could have done some damage with it. Chris, where did you get this? I didn't need to ask since I already knew, but the answer he gave me surprised me. That Lego guy? I wanted to see all the stuff in his basement, since I didn't get a chance to go over there on Halloween, but he had a door open in there, a door that you don't see when it's closed, going under the stairs. There's a chair in there, and this. He shook it. As strange as all this was, I didn't believe his story. I wanted to because I wanted to believe he was a good kid, but I couldn't. As weird as the Lego hammer was, there was nothing wrong with it. And he had broken into a house. I didn't want to rat him out, but didn't know how to tell him without being a jerk about it. Chris, how about you talk to me about it tomorrow after class? If you took that from the house, it's probably not going to help too much if they know you took that." He looked a little downcast that I didn't immediately go walking over there, but he didn't seem too upset. "Okay, but be careful. The stuff in his basement, other than that, is weird. I think he's up to something, Teach, and I don't want anything to happen to you." After Chris left, I looked over the Lego guy's house. I figured he was a little odd with all of his stuff, but criminal? Probably not. What was there to worry about? I got worried when Chris was not in school the next day. Nobody had seen him. I called his foster home and they said he hadn't come back the night before. They had already called the police themselves, afraid he had run away. Now very concerned, after school I went to my neighbor's house. His Thanksgiving decorations, usually up by now, were conspicuously absent. I knocked, but he didn't answer. Just on a whim, I tried the front door and found it was open. I didn't know if I should go in, but considering what I had heard the day before, I wanted to be sure everything was okay. I called in, asking if there was anyone there. I got no answer. I peeked in. In the front hall, there were the Thanksgiving Legos, a giant turkey and pilgrim hat, but they were shoved against the wall like they were pushed out of the way in a hurry. I called out again and noticed the basement door open. If I had known what I had known now, I would have just gone back and called the police and let them handle it. I guess, more than anything, I was concerned about Chris than I was of how strange all of this was. I went into the basement. The place was full of Lego constructions. You could barely walk for all the things that were shoved into there, ranging from full-size Lego people to scale model aircraft carriers, holiday decoration, and God knows what else. He had never put up even half of what he had built on display, and quite frankly, I was glad. Some of the things he had ranged from normal to downright disturbing. He had a model of the Telltale Heart built, and the psycho staring at the floor while the police stared at him in horror, the French Revolution with a guillotine dropped and several Lego heads in a basket. And beyond those, some grotesque creature all twists and turns with no discernible heads. It looked all wrong. A sculpture dolly would have had nightmares about, and it was eating Lego people in a scale model city. The Iron Maiden in the corner was shut, along with the other Halloween decorations, but there was no sign of anyone living anywhere. I went along the staircase, but I didn't see any room. I felt along the shelves attached to it, loaded with all the regular Lego fun sets you normally see, and found what felt like a handle built into the underside of one. It turned, and with a click, the hidden door opened. Inside was a small room, more a closet than anything. A single light bulb hung over the chair with a table next to it in the darkness. I pulled the lamp cord. On that table was the hammer Chris had shown me the other day, and next to it was a pile of teeth. I gagged and ran out of the closet. I stumbled over the proposing Lego man and knocked him over. For the first time, the glue cracked and his hand fell off. Underneath was a shriveled human hand. I scrambled up again and saw the Iron Maiden once more in the corner. This time, I saw a puddle beneath it and a pair of eyes in the slots of its door. Even though I couldn't see them clearly, I somehow knew they were Chris's eyes. I called the police. All signs showed Lego Guy had left town that morning, though they put out an APB for him. They found more bodies hiding inside the Lego figures. I didn't want to know more when they said it could be more than 15, all mummified and sealed away in their toy coffins. And the torture devices? DNA swabs showed they had been used many times. They didn't know whose DNA it was since they had no one to compare it to, but many samples had been found. And Chris? I should have listened to him. I was shaken when they pulled his body out of the house. They still haven't caught him. He could be anywhere by now, in any town, putting up displays. Maybe not Legos anymore, but I know he'll do anything to impress. I know because some boxes came in the mail for me. Well, not for me, but for my kids. They said, "Merry Christmas. Be sure the kids get these on that very special day." I don't want to open them, but I'm afraid of what might happen if I don't. All I know is the boxes smell like glue. Very strong industrial glue. End.
Wow.
Did you like it?
I was very intrigued by that.
It was so well written.
That was very well written and very creepy.
Oh yeah, it was perfect. It's a perfect story. Way to go, Dead Canary.
Yeah. Way to go.
So, instead of just segueing between the two of us, like we normally do, we actually have some stories from, well, you guys. The neighbors. Our listeners. Our friends. This did not come from our Gmail or our Instagram or our the Nightmare Town Facebook. They came from my personal Facebook, and they all were women, which I thought was interesting.
That is interesting.
And yeah, so we're just gonna read like one of them, and then Amanda's gonna go, and then we're gonna tell you the rest of them.
Yeah.
So this one came from Cassidy. I'm only using first names. I will tell you how I met Cassidy, because she is a Banff from Pulaski, Tennessee. Is that right? Pulaski? I think it is. If I'm not, I'm sorry, Cassidy. Okay, so this is her story. So I lived in the middle of BFE, and there was one neighbor across the road. There were no lights in the house besides lanterns she'd use every night. And there was an old, rusted-up car that never moved. And every single night she'd sit in her rocking chair in front of the window and watch us for hours. Well, like a month or two later, people were moving in, and I asked what had happened to the old lady that lived there, wondering if she had went to a nursing home or moved. And it turns out that fucking house had been abandoned for 3 years.
What? Yeah, when I read that one, I was pretty creeped out by it. That's a good story, Cassidy.
It is fantastic. So, that's a little taste of what the end is going to be like, because we have a few more stories. But until then, Amanda, take it away.
Alright, so we'll start with not my neighbor, but a friend's. She told me a disheveled 15-year-old girl knocked on her door. The girl explained she had been kept in the neighbor's bathroom. He made her sleep in the bathtub and would not let her out. I guess she met him through an online meetup. She escaped while he was out and knocked on doors until someone answered. My friend took her in and helped her clean up. I'm pretty sure they called the cops or her family. This was almost 15 years ago.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and the reason I chose to read some of these too is because it just left an air of mystery, because they're giving you a taste of what happened, but they're not giving you, I don't know, some of these aren't giving you the full picture. It just kind of leaves a little air of mystery and creepiness to it.
I like it. I want more.
So the next one says, he had a telescope mounted on a tripod, which he kept perpetually aimed at our bedroom window. The guy lived there by himself and only used a nightlight in the room with the telescope. There was just enough light to see him moving around whenever we were in our bedroom with the window open.
Why would you have your window open?
Yeah, especially at night, man. Come on. That's a little creepy yourself. Maybe they're the creepy neighbor and they just don't realize it.
Oh god, what if I'm the creepy neighbor?
Oh no. What if I am?
No, you were wonderful as a neighbor.
Yeah, because I never left my house. Alright, so the next one. I lived for a few months next door to a guy who would knock on my door at like 10 p.m. and leave me notes on napkins or other random pieces of paper that said things like, "Hey pretty lady, text me your number ASAP," with his name and number. When I scratched the rear bumper on my car, he left a note with a P.S. I do car detailing. This is less creepy than some of the stories here, but still pretty frightening as a young woman living alone.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Which honestly, that's up there with pretty creepy, I'd say.
Yeah.
She's downplaying that.
That is when you start carrying mace, if you do not already carry mace, and maybe get some brass knuckles.
Yeah.
Or a good old-fashioned pocket knife to cut his dick off with.
Speaking of dicks, that segues me into this one.
Oh, didn't even know it. High five.
Yeah. I ended up receiving some of my neighbor's mail and decided to return it. His front porch has 3 steps leading up to it, so I knock on the door and step down the steps to leave enough room for the door to open. Out comes the neighbor, and there I am, eye to eye with his fly wide open and his helicopter hanging out like it's ready for takeoff. It was fall.
I was taking a drink.
Sorry.
Oh god.
Go on. It was fall in the Midwest too, so I know he felt the draft. Didn't faze him one bit. That one is just Just creepy in a just
horrible way. Oh God, nobody wants that.
Nobody wants an exhibitionist neighbor.
Nope. Please put your dick away.
In the fall in the Midwest.
You know you gotta be cold.
What are you doing with yourself, man?
You know it had to be like sad and cold.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, this is not the dick corner. Go on.
Well, okay, so I was in the backyard pulling weeds in the winter when I was 16. I felt like I was being watched, so I turned around and saw my neighbor on his deck, squatting behind the railing while staring at me. I was out there alone, and I've had issues with him in the past, so it was really creepy. Which reminds me of a neighbor I actually used to have, a true story, that used to just like rollerblade slowly past my house. And one time wrote me some poetry and drew a picture of two people, but they didn't have faces, and it was in like red scrawled ink, and it was a little scary. Yeah. And I found like dead roses outside my house once.
Oh.
Yeah. I forgot all about that until just now. This talking about the creepy neighbors has brought that out.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's cool. I think they moved. This was like back in like middle high school.
Wait, is that over
Middle
near
school,
the
high
house
school.
that you live at now?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, this was a long time ago. So I kind of
How do you
filed it away in my
I mean, that
brain.
was tar and chip.
I know.
You do not
This-
rollerblade
yeah,
on that
Well,
comfortably.
they tried real hard.
Oh no. Oh sweetie.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. And you have to think, this was not where I was as your neighbor. This was
Further down.
my parents' house, which is, much further down and near a dead end. And I knew where this individual lived, and they lived quite a ways away in the neighborhood.
Huh.
Not anywhere close by my house.
That means to get to your house from the road, they had to walk to drop those roses and the poetry off.
Yeah, not to mention it was a very steep uphill that they would have had to have traveled to even get around to.
And rollerblades.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they wore tennis shoes until they got to the top of the hill, changed into the rollerblades.
They just think I have the hots for someone on rollerblades,
Oh,
I
yeah,
guess.
I mean, early 2000s?
Yeah, true. Like I said, this was like middle school, I
that
think.
was like Disney Prime.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't have rollerblades and like frosted tips, what were you even doing?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm pretty sure the kid just, had a crush on me, but it was middle school. I was still reading Junie B, so I was not interested.
I was into Goosebumps in junior and middle school. Alright, is there any more?
Yes, I have a few more here.
Yes.
So this one is really creepy, as all of them are. When I was little, about 5 years old, this near adult, more of a teen, probably crazy neighbor wanted to play with me a lot. My mom would send me outside because she thought he was just the goofy neighbor. Yeah, red flag number 1.
Come on, moms, listen to your kids.
He would also stand in the woods, Michael Myers style, and watch my aunt or mom work outside in the flowers. When I was about 6, we had my window open from the summer heat, and he climbed in it while I was sleeping. I woke up and realized someone was walking around my room, and was absolutely terrified. Like nothing else before it, or since, he came over and touched my face. He had leather gloves on, and I can still smell the leather. I passed out from fear. He bolted after I came to and screamed. I'm not really sure what all happened, but I'm pretty sure I had PTSD for years. Nothing happened to him, because was it really him? I was 6. He eventually died decades later from a drug overdose in a monthly one-room motel rental, and I was relieved.
What?
Yeah, so that one, again, very vague as to what actually happened, but the fact that there's a guy crawling in a window wearing leather gloves touching a kid's face, it's just really unsettling.
Listen here, moms and dads and parent figures. If your child is telling you that someone is giving them the Wiggins, and you're like, it's fine, they're way older than you, go play with them? That is not okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god, why did...
I'm sure this was like,
That bothers me.
yeah,
I.
yeah. Well, this next one gets a little supernatural on us, maybe.
Ooh.
Change it up some. There was this woman living 2 houses away from mine. Me and a couple other kids would play with a ball near that house because the playground was nearby. There were many times when our balls would accidentally end up in her front yard. None of us dared to go in there, so we asked our parents. They would never tell us why they didn't bring our balls back, but when we grew up, I was curious, and my dad told me that when he went up there, he didn't see any balls in her front yard. No one answered the door, so we walked in and shouted to see if anyone was home. And of course, there was this old woman sitting in her rocking chair with her creepy grin smile, and behind her he saw a giant box full of children's balls, which they were covered in God knows what, like red, slimy something. He said it didn't look like blood, but it was hella creepy. So he apologized for coming in and got the fuck out of there. She was always acting strange when she would walk out of her house. The food store was very close, but she never went to get anything, and no one was ever visiting her. Like, how does she get food and other supplies? Still to this day, when I look over at her house, it just gives me goosebumps. Like, what would have happened if a kid would have gone to her house to look for our ball? Damn.
Creepy old women.
Yeah.
Bet she was Russian.
Definitely.
Just saying. I don't know why, but that's just what I'm imagining. Like a little old Russian grandmother. With
Yeah.
like the really tight bun. And the no teeth. Oh, no teeth. Have you ever seen a no teeth smile?
Yeah, it's a little creepy.
It's very.
A little unsettling.
I don't like it.
So this last one I have here is this one personally creeped me out the most. Rick was a handsome man. Very handsome. Mom said Rick could light up a room with his charm and wit, and always had very beautiful girlfriends. Both my mom and dad were very fond of him, and spent long evenings drinking, laughing, and sailing boats and whatnot. One time my mom got really ill. She got pneumonia, and my dad was working full-time. So once she was well enough to go home, she was basically bedridden and left home alone for most of the day. One afternoon, Mom was woken by the sound of clanking and footsteps. She weakly called out, asking if it was my dad. Rick, the neighbor, sticks his head round the doorframe. She said it was a nice surprise to see him, but she wondered what he was doing here. He just said he was really worried about her, and if she needed a cup of tea or some toast. Mom kindly declined and said not to worry himself, and that my dad would be home soon anyway. He smiled and said that he would let himself out, and disappeared back around the corner of the door frame. My mom closed her eyes to go back to sleep when a thought popped into her mind. How did he get in? Then she starts hearing shuffling noises coming from downstairs. Rick is still there. 20 minutes go past, and she can still hear him pacing around downstairs. She starts thinking to herself that she would like him to go now, and where the hell is her husband? When Dad finally comes home, Rick has left and they think nothing more of it. 2 weeks later, Rick is arrested and everyone is shocked and upset, especially my parents. He was charged for the murder of a woman and an infant and found guilty. Mom and Dad were still fond of Rick and Mom was still ill, so Dad went by himself to visit him in prison. Mom said he was visibly shaken when he came home, and Mom asked him how Rick had been. Dad said that Rick was walking around a local park one late afternoon and he saw a young mother and her child out for a walk. He said he followed them briefly before introducing himself. He said he thought the mother was quite attractive and he wondered what it would feel like if he strangled her to death. So he described how he led them into a shadier area and promptly strangled the mother in front of the child. Then he turned to the child and broke his neck with his hands and left both of their bodies in the daylight. Then he let himself into my mom and dad's house through an open window and spent half an hour deciding whether or not he wanted to murder my mother. In the end, he didn't because he said it looked like my mom was dying anyway. My dad was horrified and said he'll never visit him again or talk to him. I was pretty shocked when I found out about this. I'm 23 now, and I never heard them say anything about it. I guess it shocked them just how close they came to murder and from someone they loved, knew, and trusted, their neighbor.
That actually segues really awesomely into something that my friend Melissa told me today. because I asked her for a creepy neighbor story, and she pointed out that Ted Bundy was probably somebody's neighbor at one point. But he was known for being charming.
Yeah.
And fucking creepy.
So was Charles Manson.
Yeah. Charismatic.
Charismatic. Social chameleons.
It's not always the creepy ones you have to look out for. Just be scared of everyone, okay?
Yeah, just be paranoid and assume everybody's
A serial
killer.
Or cannibal. Or rapist.
Or a vampire in the Illuminati.
They are all vampires in the Illuminati. Why don't they want to be my friend? But not all neighbors are that way. You might start a podcast with one, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Or, you might be the youngest person in your neighborhood, and everyone kind of treats you like their granddaughter.
Or your neighborhood might just be full of family.
Yeah.
And
you might actually be their granddaughter.
In my case, yes. I'm the granddaughter, daughter, niece, and sibling of, most of my neighborhood.
Except for not the fun one. The one that took my old house.
Yeah.
Frackin' creep. Ooh, tell him your story.
I'm just an antisocial person, I suppose. Honestly, I don't know how I even met you when you were living there.
I am not an antisocial person.
Yeah.
And my dog barked at you, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And that's like, hi, I'm Betty. I like your Halloween decorations.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was in the yard, like towards the road, so I was in like okay, I can be social right now.
You were close to the road when I was walking Bella, so it wasn't like, hi.
Yes, but lately I've had a neighbor knocking. You guys know what a cop knock is, right? When they just bam, bam, bam.
Really aggressive.
Aggressively and quickly on the door. Well, that happens, and then, oh, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll hear it on my other door. Bam, 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 bam. Now, if this were family member coming to my door, 1, they would text me. 2, they wouldn't knock. 3, they would come to the side door and know that I have a doorbell. This doesn't happen, and I feel like I have to hide in my house sometimes because I just don't want to interact when somebody is banging very rapidly on my door, repeatedly waiting for me to answer, and just lingering outside my door.
Open the door naked one day.
But what if they're into that?
Wear a strap-on. Buy a strap-on, wear the strap-on, naked.
I guess we could go that route.
I mean, just go as awkward as you
can. Just go as creepy as I can.
Yeah. Just
maintain eye contact.
Be crazy. Out crazy them.
Out crazy them.
See, I haven't had a lot of really creepy neighbors. I have had a couple. The first apartment that I moved into, well, not the first one, but the first one I moved into by myself. I was 22. I lived by myself. And I met one of my neighbors because I had bought a couch and my mom had helped me get the couch into her vehicle and to my apartment, and then we were having trouble getting the couch into my apartment. And one of my neighbors was taking out his trash and he saw it and he came over to help, and he was awesome. What up, Philip? Probably doesn't listen to this, but what up, Philip? But so he and I started hanging out, and then he introduced me to his roommate, Carl. Carl was freaking weird. And it was kind of awesome there for a little bit because I lived by myself, but I was still cooking like I was living with my family of 5. So I would make a whole bunch of food that I wasn't going to eat, and I would eat on it for a couple of days. Then I'd give it to Philip and Carl. They would finish it off, wash the dish, and bring it back to me. And then on the weekends, they would order pizza, and then they would bring me pizza.
Nice.
Which was the perfect setup until Philip moved.
Oh.
And then it was just Carl.
Oh, did it get weird?
It got real weird.
Oh, no.
Because 1, I had to go back and get my dishes that were still dirty. And 2, he never bought pizza. And 3, he would just ask me for food. This is a grown man that didn't feed himself.
Maybe that's why Philip moved.
I'm pretty sure it's why Philip moved. And then I had another one in the same apartment complex, and it was a woman that had like 4 kids, and her husband was odd, and I think she was just really, really lonely and wanted adult interaction. And so anytime she saw me outside for the briefest amount of time, she was at my door asking me how I was doing. Which would be nice if it wasn't for the fact that at the time I worked 4 to midnights. And I was wanting to go to bed. Or I was just getting up and enough to like put something in the mailbox before the mailman got there. So I could still sleep until I had to go to work.
Who's just like hanging around?
I think she
at
just
midnight,
said.
just like waiting.
I think she just. Well, she was usually feeding one of the children from her breasticles. So, because they were very young. I don't remember her name. But that's okay, because she weirded me out.
So do we have any more viewer or do we have any more neighbors that submitted creepy stories?
We do. We have a few more. Alright, so this one is from Sarah. She's actually one of my eldest brother's best friends. And apparently she lives in the same neighborhood as my other older brother. Here we go with that one. She said, I don't know if you visit Marcus often, but we live in the same neighborhood. The man across the street from us sits up all night year-round in his boxers in his garage with the door open. No matter the weather, it's odd. Just sitting there.
It is odd.
No, poor Sarah. Shoot him with a BB gun. I'm not giving good advice today, but I feel like it would work. This one is from Katie, and she is another one of my eldest brother's best friends that does not live in the same neighborhood as the older brother. I have 2 older brothers, by the way. I know this is getting kind of confusing. I have the older and the eldest.
I need to start using that for mine, because I've got 3 bros, 3 sisses.
I actually, a large group of my friends just refer to Travis as the eldest.
That makes him sound like a vampire.
Is it? Aren't we though? Isn't we though?
Yeah. We is.
You don't know my life. But Katie says, now this one creeped me the fuck out. My next door neighbor was murdered by her husband and tried to cover it up by cutting her up and sticking her in his Frito-Lay's truck in a gym bag. He made his rounds the next day with her in the back. He was exposed by his little boy the next day telling officers his dad saw her last. Creepy thing is, I heard him slam the door on his truck. I was playing on my computer with the window open and didn't think twice about it. And I was like, are you fucking with me? Is this real? And she was like, yeah, this is real. And I was like, oh my god.
That's terrifying. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. So this is from my girl Naja, who was actually one of my competitors while I was at Nationals. And I love her. She's from North Carolina. And this is her creepy story. So Creepy Guy 1 is yelling across the long parking lot at Creeper Guy 2 because his bird food is all over Creeper 2's porch. Nowhere near him, but fuck it. Meanwhile, Creeper 2 is going in and out of the house, cutting the lights on and off, paying Creepy Guy 1, who looks like the goddamn Crypt Keeper, what the fuck, who, by the way, is still irritated about the bird food, no mind at all. Now I'm out smoking and drinking a little wine, so for about an hour this shit is going on. Creepy Guy 1 yelling from his porch and Creeper 2, whom is still cutting his lights on and off and going in and out. So now the hospital police arrive and collect Creeper 2, and Creeper Guy 1 goes to Creeper Guy 2 and collects bird food and brings it to his house. Coming back and screams, "Goddamn motherfucker!" and returns to the house. Good show, I say, but it sucks being in the dead center apartment of all the action.
Still, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Alright. So this one is also from one of the girls that I competed against. And her name is Lindley, and she's from Texas. And again, I fucking love them so very much. Okay, so I had a crush on this really popular guy at school, and his friend, who's not so popular or cute, liked me. He was my neighbor. He told me one day that he could get popular guy to like me and all that. Well, I didn't believe him, so I went home. Well, he followed me home and was texting me saying to come out and that if I'd just give him a chance, he'd get the guy to talk to me or whatever. He would not leave. It was so freaking creepy, and I told him if he didn't leave, I'll call the cops. It was so bad because he was literally obsessed with me. He just made me uncomfortable all the time. Like, who the fuck stalks someone's home and expects them to fall for them? Which, a lot of the stories that I read about the creepy neighbors and stuff, it was usually very similar to that. Like, so-and-so followed so-and-so because they loved them.
Mm-hmm. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
And they wanted to wear their
Couple
skin.
times.
They wanted to wear their skin.
Minus the skin wearing.
Skin wearing.
That's a new term.
It's the closest you can get to somebody without consuming them. I mean, if you're gonna flay somebody's skin off, you might as well go ahead and eat the meat.
Yeah.
I'm always down for a little bit of cannibalism.
Gotta use every part so it's respectful, yo.
Otherwise, it's a waste.
Yeah.
Will you hand me the top hat, please, and I will shake that thing for you?
Yeah. Shake her up.
Alright, shake it, shake it, shake it. Pick our next episode, friend.
John/Jane Doe.
Ooh, the possibilities are endless.
That's gonna be fun. I need to come up with something else, guys. Help me find something so I don't become a catchphrase.
But thank you guys so much for listening. If you have your own stories to tell or ideas for the hat, go ahead and hit us up at nightmaretown18@gmail.com. We are also on Facebook and Instagram at nightmaretown18. And if you're just feeling up to it, you can also Google us at Nightmare Town Podcast. And that's pretty cool to do because I've been doing it a lot lately. Just saying. I'm not obsessed with us. You're obsessed with us. What's up with that?
Why are you so obsessed with us?
Mean Girls reference.
Oh, I love it. And
Yeah.
it's Wednesday, but we're not wearing pink.
I don't wear pink.
Me
Fuck
neither.
pink.
I don't think I own pink.
I do own pink, but it's like fuchsia pink. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
It looks good with my hair. My hair's red. But, yeah. Do you have anything else to add?
Until next time.
Tell us a story. Bye.